Hello friends, subscribers and new viewers of this channel, and welcome to FreeCAD tutorials. In this tutorial we explain how to create an assembly in FreeCAD. In particular, over here you can see two parts, or better to say two bodies, that are connected by using this joint over here. And this joint is actually rotational or revolute joint. Now, the first body is a support. Here it is. It's a simple box. And the second body is this arm that can freely rotate around this support over here. And if I move this arm, you can see how nicely it can rotate. In practice, of course, you can have a bearing over here that will support this arm. In this video tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to create this assembly from scratch. Okay, so here's a brief overview of what we need to do. First of all, we need to create this part over here. Then after we create that part, we need to create the second part. That is, we need to create this arm. And after we create an arm and part, we need to create the assembly. And then we need to add a revolute joint. Note over here that I'm using FreeCAD 1.0. However, everything explained in this tutorial can be generalized and used in FreeCAD versions who have higher version number. However, it's very important that you install FreeCAD 1.0, since this version of FreeCAD actually has integrated assembly function, and here it is. Also, in this tutorial, I will assume that you know almost nothing or very little about FreeCAD, and consequently I will spend a significant amount of time explaining basic functions. Okay, let's start from scratch. After you open FreeCAD, click over here to create a new document. And then let's do several things. First of all, let's create a body. To create a body, click over here. Then let's create a sketch. You can either click over here or click over here. Then select the sketch plane. In my case, I'm going to use the YZ plane. So click over here. Next, let's do several things. First of all, let's click over here to activate the grid. Then expand over here. That is, expand this button and make sure that Snap to Grid is being selected. Good. The first step is to create a rectangle. To create a rectangle, you need to click here, and then let's create, for example, a rectangle that will look like this. Now, before I continue, I need to explain how to navigate the view. First of all, you need to learn how to pan or translate the view. To do that, simply press and hold the middle or the roller mouse button and move left and right. By doing this, you're going to pan the view. Next, let's learn how to zoom in. To zoom in, you can use the middle mouse roller button. You can simply roll it forward or backward to zoom in or zoom out. Now, over here, you can see that our rectangle is not properly defined since we have 4 degrees of freedom. So let's constrain these degrees of freedom. First of all, click over here. Then you need to find an option, that is, you need to find this angle over here, expand the button and click on constrain horizontal distance. And over here, go with, for example, 80 millimeters. The same thing needs to be done for the vertical distance. So click over here, again, click here and constrain vertical distance. And let's, for example, go with 80 millimeters over here. And now we can see that we only are left with 2 degrees of freedom. So what are these degrees of freedom? If I try to move this rectangle, you can see that I can move it in the plane. We would like to constrain the movement. To do that, simply click on this point over here, then on this point over here, then go back over here and click on constrain horizontal distance. And over here, let's go with 40. And now we have centered one dimension. Let's repeat this. Click here, then click here and constrain vertical distance. It is now 40. And now you can see that our object is fully constrained. Good. This is our support plate. Next, we need to add the circle. To add the circle, you simply need to click here, click on the center, and over here, let's select, for example, the diameter. Let's enter 30 and let's see what will happen. Okay, here it is. Maybe 30 is too big. However, we are going to change that. To change that, you can simply click here, and instead of 30, you can, for example, specify 15. And this looks a little bit better. Okay, another way to create a circle, let me show you after erase this, is to click here, click on center, specify any radius, do the right click to exit from this menu, then over here select the circle, and then click over here and here constrain radius, and let's go with 15 for the radius. Okay, so make sure that the radius is 15. That is, in the previous case, the radius should be 15. Good. Let's continue. Now, let's close this option, and now what you can see over here is a sketch. We need to extrude this sketch. Here again, click here on model, double click on sketch, and remember that this circle has a radius of 15. So keep in mind that since we will have to make a part whose radius matches this radius. The next step is to extrude. To extrude this object, simply click on sketch over here and click on this pad button. And then let's set the extrusion. For example, let's go with 15 millimeters and click on OK, and this is our part. Next, let's change the color of this part. To change the color of this part, let's do the following. Click on the body, do the right click, click on appearance, then click over here, click here, and let's, for example, select this color over here. Click on close, and now you can see that the color is changed. Click on close. The next step is to save this part, but before we do that, click on body and we can change the label. Let's call it as support plate. And here's our support plate, and let's save everything. To save everything, click here, and then you can do several things. You can, for example, click on File, Save As, and let's save this file. I will create, for example, over here a folder. Here it is, and I will call it support plate. Okay, so this is our support plate. Next, let's create the second part. That is, let's create our arm. The next step is to create the arm. That is, the next step is to create the second part. Let's do that. To do that, simply click over here, and you will see that the new document is being created. Click over here, and let's call it as arm. Click over here, and then click here, and click on File, Save As, and save it in the same folder as the folder that you used to save support plate. Click on Save, and here it is. Then click on Arm. Then what you need to do is to click on Create Body, and here's our body. So let's create our first sketch. Click over here. Make sure that you select YZ plane. So this is sometimes tricky. Then click over here to activate the grid and make sure that Snap to Grid is being selected. Then click on this circle, click on this center, click here, do the right click, then click on circle, then find this button and constrain the radius. Let's go with 15. Here it's very important that this radius matches the radius of the hole in our plate. Click on close, and let's continue. The next step is to extrude the sketch. To extrude the sketch, simply select the sketch, then click here, and then let's extrude this for 90 millimeters. So select here 90, press enter, and here it is. Good. The next step is to create this part over here. Okay, so how to do that? Make sure that body is selected. The strategy over here is to create a new sketch and to map this sketch to this surface over here. To do that, click on body, then let's create an empty sketch by clicking here, and let's select this plane over here. Again, do the YZ plane, and then let's close. After you do that, over here you will actually see that inside of the body you have an additional sketch. It's called sketch 001. Okay. Next, make sure that this surface is selected. Then click over here and click on attach sketch. And over here from this drop down menu, select sketch 001. That is, select the newly created sketch, click on OK, and click on OK once again. Now if you double click on sketch, the sketch actually lives in the plane of the top surface of this cylinder. And let's start with sketching. First of all, make sure that grid is on, make sure that snap to grid is on, and let's start modeling. First of all, let's create a rectangle. So click here and let's create a rectangle. For example, let's put this rectangle to be something like this. You can expand it a little bit more. And let's start with constraining the dimensions. First of all, click here, then click here, then constrain horizontal distance, and let's go with 380. Then click here, repeat this step, 380, then click here. Then what you need to do is to click here, constrain vertical distance, and let's go, for example, with 80 over here. Good. Now, we need to constrain the position of this rectangle. To do that, you can simply click here and click on this point over here, then go here and constrain horizontal distance. Let's go, for example, with 40. Repeat the procedure, click here, then click here and click on constrain vertical distance. Let's go with 40 again, and here we are. Now we are fully constrained. The next step is to create fillets over here. That's super easy. You just need to find the fillet option. So where it is. In my case, it's here. So click on create fillet, click on this line, and here's the fillet. Later on, we are going to change the radius of this fillet, but for the time being, let's create all 4 fillets. So click here, here's another one, click here, here's another one, click here, and here's another one, and do the right click to exit. Okay, so let's constrain the radiuses of these fillets. First of all, to do that, click on fillet, and then over here, click here, and constrain a radius. And let's go, for example, with, let's see what happens if we go with 20. Okay, 20 is good. So let's do the same procedure here. Let's do 20 here, and let's repeat this. Click here, and then click here, constrain radius. Let's go with 20. Click here, constrain radius, and let's go with 20. And that's it. Okay, now we have fillets, we have this rectangle, and let's continue further. Next, click on model, and let's get out of this sketch. There are several ways to do that. You can go back to tasks and click on close, and now the sketch will be closed. The next step is to extrude this sketch. Make sure that this sketch is selected, and then click on this padding, and let's go with, for example, maybe 20. 20 is fine. Click on OK, and that's it. Next, we need to create a handle over here. To do that, we are going to repeat the procedure. Create a sketch and map the sketch to this surface over here. So click on body, then over here, click on create sketch. Make sure that you select the YZ plane. Okay, close the sketch, and then let's map the sketch to this surface. To do that, simply select the surface, then over here expand and attach the sketch, expand over here and click on sketch 002, click OK, OK, and now if you double click over here, you will see that will live inside of the plane of the top surface. Okay, click here, and over here make sure that snap to grid is selected. Now, to construct a circle over here, we need a little bit of help. Namely, I would like to refer to the points and to vertices or to lines from the previous extruded object. And to do that, simply click over here, create external geometry, make sure that this is selected, and then click here, click here, click here, click here, and click here, and do the right click. Okay, let's create a circle. Click here, make sure that you put the circle, for example, over here, and then let's click here, do the right click, and let's start with constraining the circle. To constrain the circle, we need to do several things. First of all, click here and click on constrain radius, click on circle, and let's go with, for example, 15 over here, and that's it. Do the right click, and next let's constrain the position of this circle. That is, we only need to constrain 1 degree of freedom. Namely, if you try to move this circle, you will see that the circle is moving along this line, and we don't want that. So let's do that. Click, for example, on this point, click on the center of the circle, and over here, click here and constrain horizontal distance, and let's go with 45 over here. Now everything is fully constrained. Do the right click over here, close, and here we are. Make sure that you select the Sketch 002 and then extrude, and let's extrude, for example, for 50 millimeters. Okay, here it is. Beautiful. Okay, next let's set the color of this part. To do that, click over here, click on appearance, then let's click on custom appearance, diffuse color, and let's specify the color. Let's go, for example, with a red or with a purple color. For example, you can select this color, click on OK, click close, and here it is. Beautiful. It has a beautiful color. Good. Click on close, and here we are. So currently we have support plate, and over here let's change the name of the body. So let's call it as arm, and here it is. Beautiful. The next step is to create the assembly. However, make sure that you save the arm. Click on arm, click on save, click on support plate, file, and save. To create the assembly, click over here to create a new empty document. And let's click on the document, and let's call the document as assembly. Okay, good. Then let's save assembly. File, save as, and save it as assembly, and click on save. To create the assembly, let's start from scratch. Make sure that the assembly document is selected, click here, and click on assembly. And then over here, click on create assembly. And you will see several things over here. First of all, you will see the assembly, you'll see origins and joints. Joints folder or joints menu will contain all the joints that we will add later. For the time being, click on assembly and then find this button insert component. Okay, so click over here. And then you'll see that automatically this menu recognized the parts, recognized the support plate, recognized the arm, and let's start with the support plate. Do the left click and let's see what is written over here. Do you want to ground the first inserted part automatically? You need at least one grounded part in your assembly, and this is super important. Keep in mind, you need to ground or fix one part. In our case, this part will be grounded. Grounding means that you can still actually move this part in this assembly. However, once the assembly is created, this part will actually be fixed. So let's click on yes, and here we are. Then do the right click to here on arm to add the arm. and here's our arm. You can see that currently everything is being automatically aligned. However, we will fix that later on. Okay, so let's do that and let's click on OK. And now let's see what happens over here. You will see assembly. If you expand joints, you will see that the grounded joint is over here, and you will see this lock over here, and then you will see the support plate and you will see the arm. Now, a nice thing over here is that if you select the arm, it will be highlighted in this assembly. Good. Another important thing to learn is that if you click on assembly over here, or if you make assembly active and if you click on the arm, you will be able to freely move the arm. For the time being, let's place the arm over here. Similarly, if for example you're in assembly and if you click over here, you will not be able to move this object since it's grounded. However, you will be always able to move this part unless you create a joint, and we will do that. So what I would like to do now is to tell to FreeCAD that this arm and this support over here, or the support plate, should be connected with each other, and this plate should be able to rotate with respect to this, or better to say the arm should be able to rotate with respect to the support plate. So what we need to do is to create a rotational joint, or to create a revolute joint. Notice over here that you have a joint menu. You have a create a fixed joint, you have a create a revolute joint, you have to create cylindrical joint, and other joints and other options over here. For the time being, and in this video, we are going to create a revolute joint. To do that, rotate the view. To rotate the 3D view, you need to press and hold the middle and the right mouse button. Then you need to click on this edge over here of our arm and on this circle over here of our plate. However, you need to select them at the same time. How to do that? Well, press Ctrl and hold Ctrl, click here, then click over here, and then now you have selected both circles. Then you simply need to click here and bang, magic happens. You see now that this plate is perfectly matching this arm over here. And over here you can also play with the offset. You can go like this, or you can go like this. Let's go a little bit like this. Good. And let's click on OK, and congratulations. If you click on joint and expand, you will see that we have just created a revolute joint, which is truly, truly amazing. Now I can rotate this as I wish, this view, and now we can test this assembly. Click on assembly over here, and then you will be able to nicely rotate this arm with respect to this plate. And that's it. This is truly, truly amazing. Now make sure that you save the assembly file by clicking here and click on File, Save. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Before I conclude this tutorial, I need to show you an additional thing. One of the reasons why assemblies are very important and useful to create the discipline designs is that you can easily change the part and its dimensions, and these changes will be reflected in this assembly. So let me show you how to do that. Go, for example, to the support plate and click here on Pad, expand the pad, and double click on Sketch. And let's change these dimensions. Okay, so double click here and let's go, for example, with 200, and let's go with this dimension and let's go with, for example, 200. And now we need to reposition everything. That is, we need to set the proper constraints, since now everything is being destroyed. So to do that, we need again to click here and let's do 100 here. And let's click here and let's do 100 over here. And now everything is repositioned. Close this. You can see that the part is being changed. Let's save the part by clicking here and click on Control S and now go to assembly, and here it is. Beautiful. You see what happened over here. Now you can see clearly that the part dimensions are being updated. Okay, that's all for today. I hope that you like this video. If you like the videos I'm creating, please press the like and subscribe buttons, and see you in the next video tutorial.